because we're blocking off roughly 87–90% of federal spending and saying we can't touch that. Can't touch it. So we're arguing over roughly 13% of federal spending, in terms of trying to find savings. And it's just not realistic. So the issue long term that we all have to grapple with, Republicans and Democrats, and we have to get serious about, is how to tackle our national debt. Most of our debt is accrued by mandatory spending. There are savings to be had in the Defense Department, no question about it. There are savings to be had across every agency and department in the federal government. And that's why it's so critical that as the Department of Government Efficiency does its work, as these agencies and departments do their work, that Congress then make a determination, whether it's through a rescissions package or an appropriations package going forward, that we actually focus in on where we can find legitimate savings that start to bring down the deficit. We're running $2 trillion deficits on an annual basis. That's not sustainable, Joe. And whether we increase taxes, as Democrats want to do, or Republicans obviously want to cut taxes, the bottom line is we still have a complete imbalance between our revenues and our expenditures, and $36 trillion in debt. I mean, since you were a member of Congress, we're talking about having added $30+ trillion in debt in 2+ decades. That is totally unsustainable. Both parties are responsible for it, and they need to get serious about dealing with this.
Congressman, hi, it's Peter Baker from the New York Times. Hey, listen, how do you see this going forward if there's not going to be agreement across party lines, right? Because you have a very narrow majority in the House, and the Senate Republicans seem to be looking at this in a different way than some of your colleagues on your side of the aisle, particularly on issues like Medicaid and so forth. How do you see this working out if there's not going to be any, working with Democrats? Are you going to be able to pull the Republicans together behind a plan that everybody from Susan Collins to the Freedom Caucus can agree on?
Well, we're going to have to. I mean, at the end of the day, the question to me is, how do you get to 218 in the House? Because the House is far more difficult to navigate through to get to the requisite number based on some of the personalities and some of the issues. I've been very clear, for instance, on the issue of SALT. If there is not a fix for SALT, I'm a no. I've been clear to the president about that, to the speaker, to Chairman Smith, and they know that. And so, obviously, as we work through the tax bill, it's a question.
Yeah, okay, Congressman, excuse me.
Yeah.
How much does that add, though, to the cost? This so-called fix for SALT.
Well, right now the cap on $10,000, brings in significant revenue, certainly, by doing so. Unlimited would be about $1.4 trillion, which I'm not advocating for, because part of that would bring back the alternative minimum tax, which would be disastrous for states like New York. So we're in the middle of negotiating this now that we can start the reconciliation negotiation. But to me, this is all a math equation. And as you move the lever here,
but on the SALT fix,
Joe, let me finish the point.
Let me finish SALT, and then then I promise you I'll give you your time to. But I'm just curious. I would just say, as a conservative, I'm talking about myself, a fiscal conservative, it seems to me a SALT fix rewards state governments that spend too much money recklessly. I mean, if your tax rates are so high because you spend so much, why should everybody else in America? Why should everybody else in America bail out New York, Illinois, and California?
I was just going to ask, are you suggesting that New York, with its proposed $260 billion budget, spends recklessly?
It's always spent recklessly. Illinois has, California has. So
of course, why should the rest of America
should the rest of America carry that bill with some SALT fix?
With all due respect, you're not. I mean, the fact is, it's a form of double taxation, which, as a fiscal conservative, I don't think anybody really would want to support. you are being taxed on your state and local taxes, and now the federal government wants to tax you on top of that. But New York is a donor state. New York sends more money down to Washington than it gets back. States like South Carolina, for instance, I've heard my Republican colleague from the Senate, Lindsey Graham, make the same point you're making. South Carolina gets more money back from the federal government than it sends in tax revenue. So are we subsidizing South Carolina? I mean,
yes,
that argument falls flat to me, frankly, because the fact is you can look at any state and any issue that each state has, and you can say that they're being subsidized by the federal government. This is an issue of fairness. It's an issue of double taxation.
Isn't that the case that most blue states end up subsidizing red states, which supposedly hate government? But isn't it usually the case that red states, on average, take more from the federal government than blue states?
I think that's very true in a lot of cases. If you look at the amount of money that goes to states across the country, a lot of the top states in terms of recipients of federal dollars are red states.
All right. Republican Congressman Mike Lawler of New York, thanks for being here, and come back. I mean, I know, this resolution is just the start of it, and you are interesting. People say, why do we have you on so much? You're a Republican congressman, you're from a swing district, and you're thinking about running statewide in New York State. So all of these issues that are going to impact red state America and blue state America going to impact you if you decide to run for governor. So we appreciate you coming on and answering the tough questions.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Joe.
All right. Thank you so much. Peter Baker of the New York Times, what are you working on today?
There's so much to work on today. I was just paying attention to what's happening in Russia. Steve Witkoff, the president's envoy, is in St. Petersburg. There's talk about whether he's going to meet with Vladimir Putin. The Russia war in Ukraine has kind of gone, to the side in terms of attention with everything going on with tariffs, but that's pretty important, too.
All right. Well, still ahead. Thanks for being with us, Peter. And still ahead, it's been almost 600 days since